His Divine Grace Abhaya Chalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Jai Acharya Srila Hridas Thakur Jai Say Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shine Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai, Vrindavan ki jai, Mathura ki jai, Jagat Goswami ki jai, Manamaya ki jai, Shrimati Vilasa Devi ki jai, Samaleka Bhakta Vrindi ki jai, Gaur Premananda. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. Where's the Bhagavatam? Which verse?
Third canto, chapter 9, verses on the board.
Yeah, but I'm not. I don't have eyes over there.
Third looks like 8.
Third canto, chapter 9.
Yeah.
Text what?
18. It's on the board.
Okay, yeah, I got it. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yasmad Vivemi Aham Api Vipararda Dishyam Adhyasataha Sakala Loka Namaskritam Yat Tepe Japo Bahu Varurut Savanas Kasmai Namo Bhagavate Dhimakaya Tubyam. Yasmad Vivanyahamapi Prapararda Dishyam. Adhyasata Sakala Loka Namaskritam Ya. Epe Tapo Bahusavo Varurut Samanas. Asmai Namo Bhagavate Dhimakaya Tubyam. Yasmat Vivanyahamapi Vapararda Dishyam. Anyasita Sakala Loka Namaskritam Ya. Epe Tapo Bahusavo Varurut Samanas. Asmai Namo Bhagavate Dhimakaya Tubyam. Yasmat Vivanyahamapi Vapararda Dishyam. Yasita Sakala Loka Namaskritam Ya. Epe Tapo Bahusavo Varurat Samanas. Asmai Namo Bhagavate Dhimakaya Tubyam. Okay.
Yasmad Vivanyahamapi Vipararda Dishyam. Ajasita Sakala Loka Namaskritam Ya.
Yasmat, from whom? Vipemi, fear. Aham, I. Api, also. Viparada, up to the limit of 4,300,000,000 years, times 2, times 30, times 12, times 100 solar years. Of course, you're not going to be able to repeat that. So, just starting it up to the limit of 4,300,000,000 years.
Up to the limit of 4,000,000 years.
Times 2 times 30. Times 12 times 100 solar years. Dishyam, place. Adyasitaha, situated in. Sakala loka, all other planets. Namaskritam, honored by. Yat, that. Tepe, underwent. Tapaha, penances. Bahusavaha, many years. Avarurutsamanaha, desiring to obtain you. Tasmai, Namaha, I do offer my obeisances. Bhagavate, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Adimakaya, unto him who is the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Tubhyam, unto your lordship. Translation: Your lordship, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you who are indeed facultable time and the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Although I am situated in an abode which will continue to exist for a time duration of 2 Horargas, although I am the leader of all other planets in the universe, and although I have undergone many years of penance for self-realization, still I offer my respects unto you. Your lordship, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. who are indefatigable time, and the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Although I am situated in an abode, which will continue to exist, for a time duration of 2 paragas. Although I am the leader of all other planets in the universe, and although I have undergone many, many years of penance for self-realization, still I offer my respects unto you. So purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami. Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. Brahma is the greatest personality in the universe because he has the longest duration of life. He is the most respectable personality because of his penance, influence, prestige, etc., and still he has to offer his respectful obeisances unto the Lord. Therefore, it is incumbent upon all others who are far, far below the standard of Brahma to do as he did and offer respects as a matter of duty. Interesting, the word duty here. So again, Yasmad Vivem Yamamavi Vipararvatishnam Vadyastita Sakalaloka Namaskritam Yad Tebekvo Savo Varurut Samanas Tasmaino Bhavate Imakaya Tubhyam. So Om Ganat Chidananda Shah Gananjana Shulakya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So here in this particular verse, and I should publish commentary, of course, Lord Brahma is pointing out a problem that many of us have, and this problem is summarized by Queen Kunti. And that summary she gives is what? Janma Ishvarya, Shitashya Shibir, Enamana Adapuman. That we all have some opulences. Of course, we do know that Krishna is full of all opulence. That's why he's called Bhagavan. He's all strength, all renunciation, all beauty, all knowledge, like that. But we have some opulences, right? I mean, we're a little bit beautiful or handsome. Of course, when you get older, that sort of goes away. But we have a little bit of that, a little bit of intelligence, a little bit of renunciation, a little bit of fame. And the problem is, according to Queen Kunti, that these things go to our head, or heads. Queen Kunti lists some of the opulences in this particular prayer. Janma, good birth. Of course, for most of us who are from the Western world, we don't have such good births as we hear. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. And so for most of us it's like that. And actually for everybody in Kali Yuga, except for those who are especially, let's say, Krishna conscious souls from their very birth. We find Janmana Jayate Shudra. Samskara Bhavat Prija. That in Kali Yuga, everybody by first birth is considered to be a Shudra. So we don't have anything to be proud of in that regard. But Janmaishvarya, wealth. We're proud of wealth, right? Like if we have some money, I've seen many times in our movement when a devotee comes in contact with a lot of money, whether they're temple president, GBC, or guru, there's a tendency to be bewildered. And I've even seen devotees, when they've inherited some money from their parents, that's maybe the last time we'll see them for a long time. Or they win the lottery. Hopefully they don't play the lottery. So, Aishvarya, wealth, and Shutashya, or learning. We see many devotees who are extremely intelligent, and then they think they're more intelligent than their spiritual master, or more intelligent than Prabhupada. I've seen it again and again and again. We had one devotee who was a Bengali expert, and he thought he could find fault in Prabhupada's translations of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he became very proud of that. And then, and Srivir was bodily beauty. So this is what Queen Kunti mentions. And of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he also talks about some other things in the Shashtaka. He says, Vedanam Najanam Sundarim Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Suray Bhavati Bhavati. That Lord Chaitanya is talking about other bewildering factors, followers, dhanam, wealth, sundarims, or if you have lady gurus, they're sundaras. You understand what I'm talking about? So, we're followers. So these are factors that actually cause anarthas to develop in our hearts. And you'll find in the writings of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who writes in his Madhurya Kadambini about the causes of anarthas, of course, what to do with them, how to get rid of them, etc. like that. Of course, anarthas, for those of you who don't know, means things that you don't want, like lust, anger, greed, illusion, envy, fear. These are anarthas. And of course, in the progressive path of devotional service, we're supposed to be getting rid of these anarthas. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions where these anarthas come from. This is very interesting in this particular context. One place that anarthas come from is very easy to understand. Sinful activities. Obviously, if you start smoking marijuana, having illicit sex, gambling, and thinking, eating meat, you're obviously going to develop some anarthas there. But it's also, anarthas also come from pious activities. That's a hard one to understand, isn't it? How can anarthas come from pious activities? I'm not talking about spiritually pious, sukriti activities. I'm talking about material pious activities. Like if I decide to open up a hospital and the hospital has nothing to do with Krishna consciousness. Or let's say, all right, let's talk about COVID right now, since this is the topic of the day. If I decide to go on the internet and encourage everyone to get the vaccine, of course, some of you will hate me for this one. Hopefully, no one here in this room. And I don't connect it with Krishna in some way, that's, of course, accepting that it's pious to take the vaccine. So if I don't connect it with Krishna in some way, it's just a pious activity. And how does it create anarthas? Because I think that I am the doer. That I am creating someone's good fortune, or helping people surmount the negative aspects of this material creation. If I don't add Krishna consciousness to my activities, somehow or other, even if it's in the mode of goodness, it can cause the development of anarthas in my heart. Because I'm the doer. Krishna's, he's all right over there. But I'm the doer. And so that's another cause of anarthas. And then the third cause, there are actually four causes. Third cause is very easy to understand. It's offenses against Vaishnavas. And this, of course, is very prominent nowadays with the internet and social networking and stuff like that. Because people take great joy for one reason or other in criticizing others and engaging what we call ad hominem attacks. It's one thing to disagree with someone philosophically. Like right now we're having this whole discussion about whether ladies can become gurus or Vaishnavis. Not ladies, Vaishnavis can become gurus. And so, you can have a philosophical discussion. What does it say in this Shastra? What does it say in that Shastra? But in many cases, it gets to the point of what we call ad hominem attacks, where you start to criticize the person who is making an argument that you disagree with. I mean, you can get to the point of, you don't understand Shastra. You're just bewildered by the illusory energy. And that's an offense. If we say that to another devotee, of course the Guru can't say that to his disciple. That's not an offense. You know, it's not the Guru says to his disciple, you're bewildered by the illusory energy, and the disciple says, you're committing an offense. And I offer defense to Guru Maharaj, because the first offense in chanting is not to criticize those who have dedicated their lives to propagating the holy name of the Lord. But in most cases, if you criticize someone on a personal basis, and you see this going on so many times, then that creates anarthas in your heart, and of course, ultimately those anarthas cover you up so much that you lose your taste for chanting. Sometimes devotees are thinking, you know, why am I having so much trouble chanting now? When I first joined the Hare Krishna movement, it was so blissful. I just picked up my japa beads and I wanted to chant all day long. I went to kirtan, and now I can't even do it. My japa beads, where are my japa beads? Anyway, wherever they are. They feel like bowling balls. You know, bowling. So can you imagine like 108 bowling balls in the bag? Just kidding. So, because they've committed offenses, you lose your taste. Your taste becomes diminished to second class, third class, or 10th class, as Prabhupada describes, negative devotion. So, one has to be very careful. Offense against devotees, offense against the holy Dhamma, offense against the deities, offenses against prasadam. Prasadam is non-different from Krishna. I mean, we become very complacent after some time. You know, when we first joined the movement, we didn't commit any offenses because we hadn't seen many devotees. And then we become complacent. You know, oh, it's just Yogendra. Or it's just Dvipuj. It's just that, you know, and then we put a label on them, you know, a negative, pejorative label on the devotee, and then that's our spiritual life goes down the tube. We don't have a taste. Because the whole point of Krishna consciousness is what? To have a taste for hearing and chanting. Dharma svanasthita pumsam vishvak seda katasya. Nobody in the routine. Shrama evi kevalam. It says if you do everything else nicely, you know, you do worship nicely, waking up early every morning, eating your prasadam and glubjanams nicely every day. But if you don't develop a taste for hearing and chanting about Krishna, then it's all like spinning your wheels. Of course, you probably don't know what that means. For those of us who come from the north, that means there's snow, and you get stuck in the snow. Anyone ever heard that happen?
We do it with the mud here.
Okay. And then you have a rear wheel drive car, and you just push down on the accelerator, and you don't get anywhere. You just get deeper in the mud, deeper in the snow, and then you got to get the tow truck or something to get you out of there. So that's the point. If you're not really developed, the whole point is why are we here? We're here to develop a taste for hearing and chanting. That's really the point. And we're here to bring others to that point. And that's if you have to talk about a vision for the Taliban or a vision for any ISKCON temple, it's to bring others to the point and give yourself the opportunity to get a taste for hearing and chanting and love Krishna. That's it. I mean, you're talking an overall, mission or vision statement like that. Why are we doing what we're doing? All the paraphernalia, everything we have, money, building big buildings, and, infra buildings. And who's going to even have a nice temple here? This is a nice temple, but you're going to have a bigger temple. But you have to keep in mind the purpose. The purpose is people. That's the purpose of everything you do. The purpose of the vegetables, the purpose of everything is to bring people closer to Krishna. When you read Prabhupada's original documentation on Prabhupada's corporation, you'll see that as a purpose. He makes that point of bringing the members closer together to, and I don't remember the exact word, to focus on the divine entity, Krishna. I'm just paraphrasing what Prabhupada said. So anyway, so one has to be very careful about offending devotees, offending the holy God, offending the deities, like that. I always mention that. So then the last source of anarthas, which is actually in line with today's verse. Someone send me a comment. Oh, someone just told me where I was. The last sort of anarthas, which is in line with today's verse, is the byproducts of bhakti. This is what Lord Brahma is talking about. Because Lord Brahma got his position because of his bhakti. He's a great devotee, pure devotee, the head of our Sampradaya. And being the head of our Sampradaya, he executed great austerities, which is mentioned in this verse. In the beginning of creation, he didn't know what was happening. Everything was dark. And then he simply heard the sound, what? Tapa. And he had such great faith. We talk about faith. Imagine if you go to your spiritual master and you say, Guru Maharaj, give me an instruction, and he simply says, Tapa. What would you do? Or he translates it. He says, do some austerity. You wouldn't know what to do. So Lord Brahma sat, I think it was 100 years of his time, and then he had all the truths of Krishna consciousness, the Siddhanta, Tattvas, everything. Everything revealed to him, and he was able to see the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he had all this opulence, his position, all this opulence, and so here he's stating that in spite of all this opulence, he's remembering specifically the time factor, isn't it? And there's one word used here in the verse which I thought I'd comment on, which is not really in the translation, but it's in the word-by-word, translation. It's, let's go back to the verse again. Okay. This is Vipani, which Prabhupada translates in the word-by-word, but it's not actually in the total translation. Fear. So he's fearful, but not fearful of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he's fearful of the time factor, and ultimately he's fearful of illusion. As Prabhupada said, he said, you Western boys and girls, of course we're not boys and girls anymore, so now I'm going to rephrase it, you Western old people are not enough afraid of Maya. So here's Lord Brahma, topmost position, but there's this fear. It's not an unhealthy fear. There is an unhealthy fear, when you're shaking all the time, afraid of God, he's going to punish you, he's mean, or whatever. But he's afraid of all these different opulences, his long life. See, he's contrasting in this verse, if you read this verse. He's contrasting his opulences here. He says, I have such a long life. So this is an opulence. Health, long life. But he's saying that because I'm fearful of you, because I'm respectful, let's change the word fear a little bit here. Because I have this healthy respect, awe, and reverence. That's a better expression for right now. Because I have this awe and reverence towards you and fearful of forgetting you. Therefore, I am offering my obeisances unto you. And so this is my understanding of this particular verse in Lord Brahma's prayer, that yes, I am offering my obeisances to you, and I hope I will never forget my position as your eternal servant. And that's actually our duty too. To always remember that we are eternal servants of the Supreme Personality of God. That is our identity. And as soon as we forget that, then we're caught up in another upadi or another false designation of self-centeredness. So we'll keep it short. Anybody have any questions? Yes, Reboot.
Lord, in reference to Lord Brahma, in his tapasya, what specifically did he do? And the first part. And the second part is, what is the why and what is the purpose of tapasya? Why did the Lord make tapasya like that?
Well, what he did, that's actually an extremely good question. What he did is he chanted the mantra. And the mantra is non-different than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we're talking about the process of devotional service, hearing and chanting. So he heard, and then he engaged in meditation. Because tapasya, for tapasya's sake, is not valuable. For example, we have our Ekadashi. So if you, on Ekadashi, you simply fast, which is good, and you don't increase your hearing and chanting of Krishna's name, fame, and glories, then what is the value? Because the whole point is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smarna. Now, I was actually, it's interesting, I was just reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita the other day in our evening class, and there was a discussion about the followers of Madhvacharya called the Tattvavadis. Now, the Tattvavadis, Lord Chaitanya had an argument with them, and he defeated them. But the Tattvavadis differ from us in two basic ways. One way is they consider the sadhana to be the following of varnashram. Not Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, non-process of devotional service. And they consider the saja, or the goal of spiritual life, to be liberated, or to have one of the types of mukti, even the Vaishnava muktis, like Sarupya, Samithya, Shashti, Salokya. So Lord Chaitanya differed with them on both of those points, because our sadhana is not varnashram. Varnashram is useful to regulate society so people can be peaceful. I'm not talking against varnashram right now, because people need to be engaged according to their psychophysical nature. You know, if someone's inclined to be a Brahmin, let him be a teacher. If someone's inclined to be a Kshatriya, let him manage. If someone's inclined to do business, let him do business, let him take care of the cows, Vaishya, etc. So I'm not decrying or criticizing varnashram at this particular point. But that they consider that to be the supreme methodology to follow varnashram. And also in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's discussions with Ramananda Roy, that was the first point Ramananda Roy brought out when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him what is the method, and then Lord Chaitanya rejected it. So in both of those stories of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, or pastimes of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya differed from that understanding. So anyway, so when we're talking about varnashram, that's not really what makes us Krishna conscious. So there's not the austerity or the physical giving up of things. Let's talk about that in terms of austerity. does not make us Krishna conscious. It's the Shravanam Kirtan. Lord Chaitanya made the point that it's the 9 processes of devotional service that are our sadhana. Does that make sense to everybody? It's a very important point. It's in the 9th chapter of the Bhajalila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's really amazing how much we discover in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're doing this reading every night online, the Chaitanya Charitamrita for an hour. And we have about 40 to 50 people join us every evening on Zoom. And how much we're discovering about our philosophy, about our methodology, about Krishna consciousness in general. So then as far as the sadhya, the goal, the Tattvavadis consider the goal to be going back to Godhead. Now you may say, isn't that our goal too? But no, it's not our goal. Our goal is pure love of Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya elaborates on this in his Shikshashtaka. Mama Janmani Janmanishwari Bhavatai Bhakti Hoy. And also, Krishna, you may crush me by your embrace, leave me broken-hearted by not being present before me, but you're completely free to do anything and everything, and I'll remain your worshipful, you'll remain my worshipful Lord unconditionally. So that is our goal. So it's very important to keep that in mind. Although in the beginning, yes, we are motivated by the idea of getting the heck out of the material world. I remember that was one of my main motivations. When I would take rest every night as a young brahmachari, I would pray to Krishna to kill me at night, take me back to Godhead. And I prayed, my dear Lord, please kill me. I guess it's different than the prayer that the Christians have, you know. Anyway, I pray the Lord my soul to take. But anyway, I pray the Lord my soul to take. Please kill me. Of course, Krishna never fulfilled that particular prayer. Maybe in some parallel universe he did, but not in this universe. But liberation is not our goal. I mean, yes, in the beginning we tell people go back to home, back to God, and you get to see these nice Survey cows and desire trees. You get to have any flavor of ice cream you want from the Survey cows. I'm sure you've all heard that before. And pakoras, the Survey cows making pakoras, ice cream, glubjamins. Wow, I want to go there. But ultimately, that's not our goal. I mean, ultimately, you come to the point, after some time, hopefully after 50 years in the Hare Krishna movement, that Anyami Vachitashenyam Gyanakarmanavatam Anukulyena Krishnana Shivanam Bhakti, which is Rupa Goswami's nutshell verse of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Ultimately, just Krishna, I just want to serve you. I want to serve my Guru, life after life. Like Prabhupada, in his poem, his offering, he made an offering to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He said, I have no hope for direct service in the coming crores of births. But just let me remember, and I'm paraphrasing right now, my humble position in relationship to my spiritual master. So this is actually our goal. And the method is Shravanam Kirtan. We shouldn't forget that. And everything else we do is meant to support those two things. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Everything else we do is meant to, and we do a lot of things. Just like this morning I had a GBC meeting. So I have the question, is it supporting my goal of accomplishing that? Bringing other people to hear, chant, remember Krishna, and bringing myself to hear, chant, remember, and have a taste for doing those things. So I have to question myself, because life means having strategic planning, just like yesterday we were talking with Sri Bush about strategic planning for the community, and it's actually very important. To have everything organized professionally. I agree, Steve. I love you, Sri Bush. That's nice, at least someone does. So he had a very good point. So with our own lives, we have to think like that too. You know, what are we not trying to accomplish ultimately? Why are we doing what we're doing? And so Lord Brahma, he engaged in the ninefold process of hearing the chant, specifically hearing the chant. And he was chanting the mantra, you know, the Gayatri mantra like that, which I'm not going to give you in class. So, does that answer the question? Yeah.
So what did Lord Chaitanya say to convince the Tattvavadis?
He said that. He said you're just following ritualistically. I mean, and then they admitted. They said, yeah, we know it's like this. I'm paraphrasing again, but this is our party line. Actually, I thought that was really humorous. Now that's not what Madhvacharya taught, but you find that the followers, even of a great personality like Madhvacharya, who is a great pure devotee in our sampradaya, they tend to change things a little bit, or a lot. So we have to be careful this guy not doing that. I'm not doing that. So they said this is our party line. That's why we do this. That was interesting. I found that quite an interesting response that they made. They agreed with Lord Chaitanya and they said this is our party line. So we have to be careful when people ask us about things, why do we believe what we believe? And we say this is our party line in this time. You have to know why you believe in something and not simply follow, like Prabhupada said in the Bhagavad Gita purport, no blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. Is that right? Such an interesting, the Chaitanya Charitamrita is such an amazing book. I mean, I'm reading it for this umpteenth time, but this time I'm actually going over it with a fine-tooth comb for all the devotees online. And actually I'm saying that I'm learning new things each time I read it. Prabhupada's books are like that. I mean, if you just sit down and read it like a novel or something like that, you're not going to get so much out of it. You know, oh, that's a nice story. Lord Chaitanya did this, and Lord Chaitanya saved his follower from the Bhattaharis. That's an interesting story too. It's interesting, you know, stories, yes. Pastimes, yes. Interesting and purifying, but there's really a lot of deep things the more you go into Prabhupada's books. So, any other questions? Probably time for prashadam, right? It's interesting here, you just see everybody's outline of their head when you give a class. The only way I know is Vibhuj is because of the gray hair.
It's because you have the backlighting.
Yeah, the backlight, it makes it a little more difficult because I do like to interact with people in class, and it's just...
And it's dark inside.
It just, what's that?
No light reflecting off the ceiling, so no light comes in.
Yeah, it's just an interesting phenomenon I experience here.
We all do.
Yes.
Well, I'll just add that I've been like the last few months been trying to fine tooth comb through the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I had the same experience that it's after 40 years in the movement. I thought, how did I not know all these things? Especially the conversation with Sanatana Swami, Goswami, and the Atmarama verse is on right now. And I used to just go over my head, but I mean it's still over my head in a lot of ways. But it's like so much more making sense when you really stop to take notes and things like that. Pay attention, like a listening thing, paying more attention.
It's amazing. Thank you very much for that, Robert. That discussion about the Atmarama verse, oh my God. And you have so much respect for Lord Chaitanya's intelligence.
The greatest scholar.
He's the greatest scholar.
About, you finished?
Yeah.
I just want to make one. I recently, we spoke about the Goswami's disappearance day.
Yeah.
And I would think, really, we don't seem to know a lot of that, except for the, Vishal and Sheila story. But it actually, that's a part of the, again, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami asked him, "Can I have your blessings?" He was asking all of Goswami.
Yeah.
And he said, "Yes, I'll give you my blessings on one condition. You'll mention it. You'll tell everybody everything I've done." Even when he was editing or working with, I think it was Sanatana Goswami's Haribhakti Vilas, is that was a group, and then he was working with Jiva Goswami on, I think the Sandarbhas or something. He didn't want any recognition for that. At the same time, like you were saying, what I was meditating on is that these devotees, they say in the spiritual world, he's that majority or that coward boy, but they're coming to assist the Lord in his pastimes. And what you were saying, my goal right now is to assist Prabhupada in his pastimes. And that may be in some other part of this universe but you can be simultaneously, if you are absorbed in that service, experiencing, if your heart is pure enough,
Yeah.
like he could just, he could just desire something, like a desire tree, and then the Radharaman deity appeared out of the stone.
Right.
And then he thought, my father told me to worship the form of Lord Chaitanya, and I wish I could do that. And then Radharaman became Lord Chaitanya. But his desires was like just being in the spiritual world. You see, in the material world, this is the spiritual world. And if you have a pure enough desire, you can, it's the same.
That's a fact. That's actually a good point. Although sometimes when Krishna helped the devotees got really upset that they were taking service from Krishna. Like the story of Raghunath Das Goswami, he was chanting on the banks of the Radhakund and Jamakund, and Krishna was standing, guarding him, protecting him from the tigers, and Radharani was protecting him from the sun.
Yeah.
And then, so there's that story, and then the story of Rupa Goswami preparing this sweet rice for Sanatana Goswami, and he had gotten the ingredients from Radharani. You know that story, right?
Partially.
All right, so Rupa Goswami wanted to prepare some nice prasadam for Sanatana Goswami, who was his elder brother. And so what he did is he was thinking, but how am I going to get the ingredients? So a little girl comes up to him and gives him all these nice ingredients, milk and rice and sugar and whatever it was. And then he prepares this, and then he invites Sanatana Goswami for prasadam. And Sanatana Goswami takes this prasadam and he says, "Where did you get these ingredients?" And Rupa Goswami describes the little girl for the ingredients, and Sanatana Goswami starts chastising him. He said, "We are meant to give service, but not take service." So it's interesting. Yeah, it's a fact. I mean, these pure devotees, they're also simultaneously in the spiritual world. There's stories about Srinivasacharya when he would go into trance, meditating on his spiritual identity in the spiritual world. He would sometimes bring things back in the spiritual world, like garland or something like that. So it's hard to imagine. I cannot even imagine the consciousness of these great pure devotees. But their consciousness is, theoretically, to describe it, is just simply to please Radha and Krishna.
But what I did with that is exactly my point that it's hard for me to explain it, but because they came to assist, but they were already, they appear to be, finding out about Lord Chaitanya, but they're instantaneously on this very ecstatic level. And so in meditating on it's like, we're very, very, well, I am very, very, far away from all of those kinds of, feelings. And my coming to Krishna consciousness was nothing like the way Gopal Bhatta drinking the Charnamrita and going into ecstasy. And nothing, there was a struggle and still struggle. So, but they're showing us what can happen if we actually really understand that it's about the qualities, developing
Right.
its qualities. That's, what I'm getting out of it. I don't know if I'm expressing myself.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very clear. Thank you.
It's specifically envy.
Envy, lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, fear, narcissism. So any other questions? We should end because it's time for shot. Yes, you.
Any other suggestions for, as developing our case, for hearing the chanting, the other processes?
I mean, just keep that in mind. I mean, I'm not going to micromanage everyone's life or micromanage the temple or anything like that. But the point is, if you keep your mission or your vision in mind, then everything else falls in place. If you just say, this is the goal, this is why I'm doing whatever I'm doing, then I think your actions will necessarily fall in place. Maybe write it on the wall of your house. Like they do in big, turn my microphone on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's that.
I thought it was.
Sounds like a
I'm
GBC
sorry.
meeting where they cut your microphone off. 2 minutes.
That was not, I was in my way, so.
It's like those old theater things where they take a hook and pull you out. You ever seen that? You ever seen that old picture?
When they do that in the hall,
They do that. So, just like if you work for some big company, like Tesla, Microsoft, whatever it is, they always have like this mission statement of the company, and it's all over the place.